you, I release you, I let you go. Then you have to forgive yourself, which is also not easy. Those two very important things. You have to get rid of the karma if you're going to go. Then you have to get rid of fear. Fear will hold you back. It will hold you to the new earth, the old earth. That's why they said you have to look at things with a different eye. So you don't buy into the fear. The government, the church, everything is controlled by fear. Think for yourself. Ask lots and lots of questions. Then make up your own mind. Don't give your power away to anyone.
Okay, well those are wise words, and I
That's what they wanted us to know. If you're going to go, you have to get rid of those two things to change yourself, to move.
Well, that makes perfect sense. Is there anything else that perhaps they've told you, or that you think maybe in other interviews that you haven't had a chance to really reveal that you would like to?
They've told me so much, that's the thing.
I understand.
Because that's what it is. It's taking your baby steps to get into this. Because when they started out with me 30 years ago, they said it was like spoon feeding. They can't give you the whole thing at one time. They said it's just like a baby. You don't give a baby a 3-course meal.
Sure.
You start out giving a baby milk, cereal, crushed vegetables. You don't give a baby a steak. So you can only give it what you can handle at any certain time.
What about the what we call the powers that be? Have they talked to you about the powers that be and how they will make the transition or not make the transition?
You mean the government?
Yes, the government. People that have actually done, had an agenda on the planet, imprisoned people, basically
They've created karma.
Abuse people, exactly.
They've created karma, so what do you think they're going to do?
Okay, well, I just wondered if they had been more specific in regard to some of these people.
They've talked a lot about those because that's what they said, don't buy into it. Don't listen to what they're saying. They're trying to create fear.
Sure.
They're trying to get rid of the population because they can control you as long as it's a certain number, but it's gotten so big they can't control the people anymore. The idea is to get rid of the population and tone it down. And a lot of that is done with what they're doing now. The wars and the food and definitely this whole crazy swine flu thing. Even the doctors have told me, do not take those shots under any circumstances because you don't know what's in them. But those people are creating fear. When you create fear, you create a great deal of karma. And they create a great deal of karma with what they're doing, so they are definitely not going to go.
Okay.
So they're not going to be happy about the whole thing. But they did say Obama is a late bringer.
Did they? Okay.
He's got a new big job cut out for him. But that he's not one of the others, so that's important.
Sure.
He's here at a very important time.
And do they give you information about what might happen, in other words, steps, that things, events in the future, certain events?
Well, I've written 3 books on it.
On the planet?
Yes, on the Conversations with Nostradamus, where we interpreted all of the 1,000 quatrains or prophecies.
Oh, okay, and I haven't read that book. So
three books.
Was it accurate? The information
it's
you got?
extremely accurate. It's the most accurate interpretation that has ever been. But the thing is, we are changing the prophecies. Because he said, even in the books, if I tell you the most horrible things you can do to each other, will you do something to stop it? Because that's the idea. If you tell someone the future, they can make changes. Because the future is not set in stone. It all depends on the decisions that the people make. In your own life, the decisions you make can make a big influence. Because he said he saw time going out in branches, many different timelines that you could go on.
Okay.
They would come into what he called a nexus point. At the nexus point was an event that had to occur. And from there on, it branched out again. So if you knew which path you were going on, you could change the future. And he said you don't know the power of your own mind. That's why we can control the future. If you can focus on what you want, peace and harmony, you can have that. But if the power of one man's mind is that powerful, imagine the power of group mind. You get groups of people focusing on peace and harmony and what they really want. The power of group mind is not only multiplied, it is squared. So the power is tremendous. And that's what I've been doing for the last 20 years, traveling all over the world, getting people to focus on that, and we can change the future. And that's what we're doing. That's why the prophecies have changed, because we are going in a different direction. I see peace and harmony.
Have you talked or heard of stories about the indigenous people and maybe even regressed some of them and saw what they are seeing in their own futures and so on?
I haven't worked with too many of them. I've worked with Indians, and I've worked in Australia, but I haven't worked with the indigenous people there. But I know I worked with Thomas Banyakin when he was one of the Topi elders, and he was giving the three prophecies. And I think what they see is very accurate.
Okay.
But we can change the future. But I see a good future ahead of us, because that's the way we're headed. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, the Nostradamus prophecies talked about these horrible wars that we should have been in already.
Right.
They should have started about the year 2000. Mm-hmm. But we have managed to go into the lesser way. We would go away from those things.
And you've heard information about stargates, I imagine, from the people you've talked to.
Yes, I know about dimensions and time travel and going back and forth between dimensions.
Mm-hmm. And
the portals and the windows.
Right, and you've heard, I imagine, that the secret government. You've heard about the secret government.
I've written about that in the Nostradamus books. Mm-hmm. He called it the cabal, the government behind the government.
And that they are doing, that they are using the stargates and going basically out into the solar system.
Yes, and they're also doing time travel. They're doing a lot of that. I don't like to be involved with that, because I've had some problems with that.
Oh, really?
With the government, and I'd rather not get over into that. But yes, it is very real.
Okay.
I've been told if I stay away from that, I'm better off to go into that part.
No problem. Well,
yeah,
we
because
can stay away from that
but they tell me to do, I do. But there is a great deal the government is doing. Bob Dean was right on. He's correct. The cloning it's been. They say my Nostradamus books. We just talked about all of that, about the cloning, about everything that happened. So I know it's real. And the government behind the government. But I just don't want to focus on that.
I understand. So as far as the people that you're talking to now, do you feel that there's a new bit, there's sort of a new wave of information coming at you at this time from the people that you are interviewing? Or do you feel that it's building? Well, I guess what I'm asking, is it, in other words, because it seems like in your books there's a progression of information, that it becomes perhaps more sophisticated, more intricate.
Yes.
And I was just wondering if you're coming across some new things now that you maybe
definitely.
haven't
A lot of
come
new
across in the
things
past.
in metaphysics.
Okay.
There's so much. But that's why it'd be very difficult for some people to understand. You're talking about dimensions. And
what about simultaneous lives?
yes, I mean, I do a lot of that. That's what I was talking about. See, you don't realize you don't just have one soul that comes into this body. You have a soul. But in order to experience many experiences at one time, it don't just come into one body. They said it's splinters. Goes into facets and splinters. And when it does that, it is experiencing many lives at the same time. This means all your past lives, your present lives, and future possibilities. These are simultaneous lives. And so at times, we do tap into some of those when I'm doing the sessions. But you're not to know about those things, because it would be too confusing for you. If you knew all the other parts of you, what they were doing and what they were experiencing, you would go crazy. You couldn't handle it. So they said, you focus on this life right now, what you're doing right here, that's the most important thing for this facet right now.
Okay, and what about the idea of twin flames or soulmates? Do you get information on that?
If you want to go there, but it's not important. It really isn't. You have people that you've had past lives with, that you will come back with again, that you resonate with, and you make contracts with these people. Let's go back and do it again through many, many lifetimes. But they say you'd be much better off if you never found your soulmate. Because you'd be so happy and content, you wouldn't do your work you came in to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But that a soulmate is just someone that you resonate with. But you'd be better off not to. You have a job to do. So, people come to me all the time, I want to meet my soulmate. Mm-hmm. And they're told, you're better off, just live your life, do what you're here to do.
Okay.
It's a nice theory.
Okay. Can we talk a little bit about the healing that you're doing right now?
Yes, that is very important.
Okay.
Because when I was doing the past life regressions, we were finding out a lot of information because we found the cause of a lot of their problems went back to past lives. Mm-hmm. But then as I was working with it, I came into contact with what I call this great power that I work with. That's the one that gives me all the information that I write about. The ETs came in during that one time, but then this other one is the one I work with now.
I see.
I call it the subconscious, but it's not the subconscious the way it's defined by the psychiatrist. That's a childish part of your mind. Mm-hmm. This, you might say, is the oversoul, the higher self, the higher consciousness. It is so big and so huge, it has the answers to everything. Why not work with something like that? Mm-hmm. And I had to have a name for it, so I called it the subconscious. They say